chit chat. Now what the fuck do I say? Yeah, chill. Say when someone goes like natural and you're just like.
Natural, what is that? And you like stand in a way you've never stood in your life.
Have you ever done
one...
extras work where they're just like, I just walk across behind the central actor and I'm like, how explain
does one walk?
Yeah, explain walk.
How does one put one foot in front of the other like a human? I don't understand.
My mum went and saw me in a panto once when I was playing Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk, first ever lead role, and I had to walk across the stage with like this other person while someone was talking about me, and she was like, you looked like a Thunderbird puppet, mate, I'm sorry. I've never seen you move like that.
Oh no.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get cracking. Let's start. So, welcome everyone to this latest episode of the Manchester Indie Theatre podcast, MITPod. You are here with me, Caroline.
And Amelia.
And we have a fantastic guest today. We have Daniel Hutchings, who is here to talk about all kinds of exciting things.
Exciting thingies.
Exciting thingies. I did misspeak. I did misname. But we will learn about the thingies in due time. But I think, as usual, we will start off with our What's On in Manchester.
So what's on in Manchester? We are going to give a shout out to The Red Lion, which is a play directed by David Thacker that will be on at the King's Arms on the 23rd of September. And the synopsis for this is: set in the dressing room of a struggling non-league football club, The Red Lion is a powerful, humorous drama by Oscar-nominated writer Patrick Marber. It pits a passionate veteran kitman against an ambitious win-at-all-costs manager in a fierce battle for the soul of a gifted teenage prodigy. David Thacker is an Olivier Award-winning theatre and television director known for his highly acclaimed work with the Royal Shakespeare Company, the Young Vic and the Octagon Theatre in Bolton. So, yeah, this is going to be very, very exciting. Anyone who's familiar with David Thacker's work, he is brilliant. So
absolutely. And I remember when Lisa Connor came on our other podcast, Lisa Connor, obviously based at the King's Arms, runs the Fringe. She was very excited that David Thacker was affiliated with the Kings.
Yeah.
So it's thrilling to see it coming up. Very cool.
Yep. So that is The Red Lion on at the King's Arms on the 23rd of September.
And we also have Terminal 2 coming up. This was written and directed by David Payne, and it's coming to 53.2 on the 30th of September to the 1st of October. The synopsis for this is: trapped in a departure lounge thanks to a delayed plane, George and Linda Sumner debate the meaning of life, the common blue bottle, sex tapes, and the pros and cons of a KFC. But it soon becomes clear that Linda's journey is one way, and that George has been hiding a painful secret for all of their married life. Will George find the strength to support his wife to end her journey? Can Linda help him to begin his own? Or will a series of emotional revelations divert both their plans?
Ooh.
Now that sounds really interesting.
Intriguing.
Another great play at 53.2. So much great theatre on at the moment.
There
it's
is.
always difficult to choose which
I
ones to give a
know,
shout
whenever
out
we
to.
do this section every week, we're like, there's just so much great theatre. You know, just whenever you get a moment to just take a look at the what's on for some of these amazing venues, the King's Arms, 53.2, please do. There's always so much going on outside of the ones that we give a shout out to.
Yeah.
There's monologue nights, there's like open mics, lots of other fringe theatre shows as well. So, and again, if anyone has a theatre show coming up that they would love us to give a shout out to, just let us know as well. Just email in to mitpoddy@gmail.com.
Or send us a DM. We also
Or a
respond to
DM.
DMs on our Instagram at MIT_pod. But speaking of all the interesting and unusual events that go on the Greater Manchester Fringe and the Manchester indie scene and beyond, we have the fantastic Daniel Hutchings with us. So let's have a little breakdown of what Daniel's career has looked like
Thus far. Daniel Hutchings is a filmmaker and comedian whose comedy explores the creative and artistic freedoms offered by digital technologies on the outskirts of the entertainment industry. Since 2012, they have been navigating a comedic filmmaking journey for a small but infectious following. So far, they've made 6 feature films, which they call Thingies, and written 3 books about their making. This has led to people they would never have met and places they would never have been otherwise. And Daniel does all of this to try and make the world a happier place, one laugh at a time. That just sounds brilliant.
Absolutely. We gave a shout out about the
We
Thingies
did.
a couple of episodes ago.
Yes, you may remember. These are, well, you call them feature films. I'd say they're experimental pieces. Am I right, Daniel?
Yeah, they're like, I call them art comedies.
art
my favourite
comedies.
phrase. Yeah.
Fantastic. They sound absolutely fascinating. I've been intrigued by them ever since we sort of started discussing them on the
Yes.
pod. So, I mean, you've screened these for the general public in a variety of venues, from libraries to pub function rooms. You've even got a dedicated fan club.
And merch.
And merch,
which
as
you're
you are
sporting
wearing.
today, which is brilliant.
Did you think you'd build such a big community when you first came up with your thingies?
Certainly not.
No.
Certainly not. The sort of community around the making came about through just having an idea for a feature and just talking to people about it and saying, I'm just going to sort of do it with my camcorder. And like, have you got a couple of hours spare one afternoon? And there were people I knew. I was performing live comedy at the time, so people I met through like the Comedy Balloon and some other comedy nights that were going on at the time. And they, as lots of stand-up comedians know, actors that are looking for showreel kind of stuff.
Of
I ended
course.
up meeting people through meeting people, and the cast ended up being about 22 people in the end or something.
Oh,
like,
fabulous.
Crazy. So,
An absolute wealth of talent.
yeah. They all end up having quite large casts, and at the inception, I'm always trying to think of something that's quite a simple premise that doesn't need many people or much time, but they always ends up growing into something else.
Of
Yeah,
course. I think
yeah.
that's the best way to do it, is start with the basics, start simple, because if you're collaborating with so many people, you'll find that ideas kind of proliferate, don't they?
Yeah, it morphs
Definitely,
into something
definitely.
you wouldn't expect when you have so many people involved and so many minds come together to create something completely new, which is really exciting. We just mentioned before we started recording about how great it is that you've created a community for your art comedies as well, that you've kind of gone to that one step further of bringing people together on like a regular basis to actually celebrate the work that you guys are actually making. Do you feel very close with the people that are part of the fan club?
Yeah, definitely. The sort of fan club thing, like the description of using thing is, came up as a sort of like a tongue-in-cheek thing. So when I finished fifth quarter, which was my fourth thingy at the end of 2023 going into 2024, I decided I was going to try and get fifth quarter seen in actual physical places. Like when I finished Happy Returns, my previous one, just before COVID hit, so there wasn't much opportunity to show it in actual different venues and pop-up places and stuff. But with fifth quarter, I said no, I'm gonna screen a thingy every month in 2024. It's 10 years since I finished my first one, Don't Go Away. I'm gonna find somewhere in Manchester that will let me have a back room for like no fee. And I ended up finding out about the Eagle Inn. They were happy to give me this dead space on a Sunday afternoon, and we screened them once a month. We screened fifth quarter, I think, 3 times. Then we screened Dan Go Away, Freelance Gigolo, Happy Returns. That led to screening Mission Giggle. And one of the collaborators on Mission Giggle, who's a guy called Leif Clayton, he would have this thing where he would come in and go, "Hi, Thingy fans," as like this sort of like funny, like little phrase he had.
I love that.
So it's partly kind of like acknowledging the scale of what we're doing, but then also I felt that there was a kind of like a celebratory thing of like acknowledging that everyone likes doing this thing together. And so I just started using it as that's what these events were. They were the Thingy fan club getting together, and we would screen one of these thingies and then have a bit of a social afterwards.
I love
That's
that.
great.
That's brilliant. It's great to respond to what your audience loves. I often say, you know, make something for yourself. Don't try and factor the audience in too much. But I think if you make that your thing, if you literally go, this is being created in response to this great amount of love and this passion and there's an obvious need and a want for it.
Yeah.
That's the opposite way of doing it that works equally well.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. I think the thing that's fun about making in that way is it's kind of like the best stuff about stand-up, where you can have immediate response and develop material as you're going along. And if something doesn't really pan out as you thought, you can kind of drop it and something else comes in its place. And it's also the most fun stuff about filmmaking, which is where you kind of see a location or a certain attribute in a person or a certain quality, and you go, "Oh, I'm going to try and capture something around that," and then ideas grow from that need to try and kind of like capture your perspective on it.
Yeah, it feels very responsive.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really, really cool. And you mentioned, did you say 2024 was like the 10th anniversary? Or something? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, great.
So
2012.
2014 was when I finished Dan Go Away, which was my first one, which is inspired by the release of Django Unchained. So with Django Unchained, the D is silent. With Dan Go Away, the J is silent. So it goes between my comedy character trying to tell people about their idea for an existential sci-fi western, and then we cut and see a scene from that.
Wonderful, yeah.
And then we cut back, and my comedy character's talking to someone who's less able to make that become a reality. So the Dan Go Away name is, for the comedy character, it's like, oh, Dan Go Away. And then for the Exifest stuff, it's like the cowboy cry of like, Dan Go Away.
Yeah.
So
That's so fun.
It's 10 years. I'm going to make a point of screening one every month. We're going to have some celebrations, and I'm really going to take stock as to what working like this actually offers me, and really embed that in the front of my mind instead of the back.
Yeah.
And the Salford ones, the Eagle Inn were happy for us to carry on, and so we're still doing it every month. So we're like 2.5 years in of screening every month.
Oh,
That's
so
wonderful.
Cool.
The Eagle Inn's great as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
can,
what a
you know,
venue.
I can speak to that, absolutely. I had an event on there in February. They were just brilliant. Fantastic place, and I think they're very keen to get as many varied and interesting events on there as possible, so do look them up. We'll drop a link in the description if you're looking for somewhere to hold an event. They're fantastic, really great.
So Daniel, you are a filmmaker and a comedian, so I know that you mentioned you'd like to integrate the multimedia element alongside kind of like the stand-up and the interacting with the audience and the live theatre. Like, did you always have that desire to combine the two, or did you kind of through sort of making film decide you wanted to kind of go one step further and start exploring a little bit, like playing with the different mediums a little bit?
Yeah, it kind of like evolved out of looking at the potential routes. Like, I did my filmmaking MA in 2010 into 2011. And at the end of that, I was like, okay, so it seems like you either try and cultivate a mainstream approach or you try and cultivate an indie approach. And I kind of didn't really feel like either were that immediate, and you still needed a certain amount of funding to even begin cultivating a project.
Absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
unless you're going to write on spec. But then I thought, well, if I'm writing on spec, I'm not filmmaking, I'm writing an instruction manual that someone else needs to agree is actionable. And then I thought, I can just see 2 or 3 years going, and I'll only have at best like a couple of scripts.
Yeah.
And it seems more exciting to just carry on working in the same way I did on my MA, with like a camcorder and a couple of people and like available lighting or anything that's accessible and disposable. And it just grew from that desire to be creative and create with as many things out of the way as possible.
Yeah, and I guess that allows you to do it consistently and to kind of like, you don't put too much pressure on being this kind of finished thing, because it's constantly evolving, and you can kind of have that freedom with it, especially if you're part of a community where there's a lot of others' input as well. I just think it sounds really fascinating, because I've always been interested in kind of combining the two forms, really, and I have done like a play in the past. It was a two-hander with a friend, and it was only a short piece, but we kind of experimented. We filmed ourselves like footage around Manchester, and we were kind of incorporating that into our like little two-hander piece, because we were both really interested in that. It's really cool, I think, for anyone who is maybe interested in exploring kind of going beyond just on stage, but incorporating other art forms into their work. I guess sometimes, again, it comes down to that. There's no right or wrong. It is kind of really open to whatever you want it to be. And I think that's a really cool thing to promote as well.
I think having playback when you're performing sounds really challenging. How did you handle someone queuing at the right time?
We rehearsed it a few times, and because we had written it ourselves as well, we sort of had a really good idea about kind of how we wanted the footage to be incorporated. Usually there'd be one of us on stage at all times, and then one would be off stage, and you could kind of hear when it would come on, and it would usually be that one of us would go off stage and then the footage would play. Perhaps like one was sat while the footage was playing. But it was fine. Like we really enjoyed it. I think it's like anything with live theatre, sometimes things can go a little wrong, but like you work with it, and I think we'd gone over it a few times, and we would just listen out, really. It was just kind of responding to those cues. But it's happened before, though. We've talked a little bit about it, where I did a one-woman show years back, and when again you're working with audio, you're working with sound cues, and I was working with a brilliant team, and everything was going fine like every night, and then on the last night there was like a cue that was missed, and then it was just, how do you navigate that in the moment? And then but we managed to just work through it, and and you just kind of work with what you've got. If something doesn't happen, then you just work around it. And then the cue came in, and I actually was able to, I don't know how in that moment, but I think something comes over you.
I saw it on the last night. I did not notice that there was anything untoward at all.
No,
so
and
it clearly worked.
Honestly, I had such a great team, and again, you just all work together to just make it happen.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's still better to take the chance and try it,
entirely.
even though it can be a little more tricky to navigate.
Multimedia performances always come with a plethora of nightmares, and if that's how you choose to work, you're just going to have to sign up to it and have some fail-safes and just accept that you've kind of made a rod for your own back in the worst cases, but in the best cases it can be so exciting and so gripping.
Completely.
I love that thingies are their own genre. That's a great thing, is that you kind of, speaking of sort of forging your own path and deciding how you want to approach performance / multimedia, you don't have to adhere to the rules that apply to theatre, to stand-up, to film, because you've kind of invented your own discipline, which is great. That's really, really exciting. Kind of casting your mind back to the first thingy, that was kind of you coining that, wasn't it? How was that? How was the process of that when it was first going up?
The initial thing was, I think because I was thinking in like stand-up kind of idea of something going over with an audience, I was thinking like, this isn't even going to play next to other micro-budget indie films. So I have to kind of establish it as having some kind of sense of logic that differs even from comparing it to that. I think things like Mel Brooks comedies and other screen comedy where they're very able to establish what they are really quickly through their own humour.
Yeah.
And I think if they're not a film, they're something else. So in the sense of like undercutting any sense of the audience thinking the production value is like too cheap to bother watching. But it also establishes, well, maybe it's something that's like crudely hilarious in a visual production sense rather than something that is just trying to do something a budgeted film does but without any money.
Yes.
So it's going, no, it's something completely different.
Incredibly aware of its own identity.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of investigating what that offers ever since, basically.
It feels like there's a punk element to it very strongly. The fact that you're kind of, that it is sort of low budget, that it's very much, we have decided what we are and that's what we're giving to you, instead of being like adhering to the standard of anything. And I think that's incredibly exciting. I think that punk needs to come back as a concept. Like, again, I'm putting labels on it. Like, it's not punk, it's a thingy. It's not anything and it's everything, because obviously we're primarily a theatre podcast, but this sits so strongly on the intersection of so many art forms and disciplines, including theatre. And it's great to have someone of entirely their own practice that they have invented to come along and chat to. It's so cool.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. That's great.
It's brilliant, honestly. It's great to hear. And it is exciting because I do think that the Manchester fringe theatre scene is also a really brilliant place to be able to bring experimental work.
Definitely.
And to kind of push those boundaries and to try new things in a really supportive space. And if that's the kind of artist that you are, the artist that you want to be, then you should be able to explore that. And there's no kind of real failure that can come into that, because you just have to give it a go and you just have to try it. And when you're working with other really great people, you're going to make something good. Like something's going to happen. It's going to be really good fun. And that's the kind of artist that I would want to be as well. It's just someone that when you feel passionate about something, you want to explore something, whatever that is. You don't want to put it necessarily into a box. You just think if you have this idea, you want to try and make it work, then I think it's great to be able to just say, right, I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to try it.
It's very brave. It's very freeing and very brave at the same time, as a performer or someone who makes art. And being so heavily inspired and influenced by your audiences, there must be, for me, I'd feel very trepidatious about it. I would be nervous every time. But can you name any kind of highlights throughout your time making thingies, like anyone you've worked with that was particularly wonderful, or just an experience that really jumps out at you, considering, you've hit such a milestone for it now?
So 2026, so it's 12 years. The most recent 1 year of the thingy, which we premiered at the Greater Manchester Fringe at Eagle Inn. That was basically the chronology of the screening start 2024, and we recorded little audience reactions on phones and stuff. And so that thingy is just a collection of everyone's responses to all these.
It's like a meta thingy.
It's a thingy about thingies and thingy bands, like, definitely.
Love it.
It's really, really, really tough to pick out highlights because there's ones where they seem like totally almost insignificant in the day. Like some sections of Mission Giggle, I'm telling people not jokes on the street and I've got like a lapel cam.
Yeah.
And they were staged because they've run through twice. One time when it goes really well, and one time when there's like a lukewarm reception. Some of those were just recorded when people had an hour on their break, and I would meet them, and we'd do them on like Oldham Street outside Abercorn.
Yeah.
And so they were really wonderful because they were just tiny little things I look forward to in the day.
Yeah.
And then we've got that little memory together. I think the one that was the biggest commitment for someone else that worked in Thingies was Marketta, who starred in Happy Returns.
Yeah.
And I did a casting call for Happy Returns, and Marketta answered it. She's from Czech Republic, and she was in Cardiff for her Erasmus stay.
Yeah.
And she was this really amazing, talented theatre director and actor. And we had, at the time, a Skype video call. So this was like 2018. And we just hit it off, and she came and stayed with me and my wife and my daughter in our family home, and we filmed Happy Returns in our house over like
brilliant.
5 days, all of her scenes.
That's an incredible experience.
And she was just so, the value of her conception of the character, because she had to not only play this sort of underappreciated wife and mother whose sort of identity has been lost in parenthood and family obligations, but she also had to play it at different periods of the life, because there was flashbacks, there's like fantasy sequences, and she had the character from when they were about 12 or 13 all the way up to the present day, and sequences where they were not really acting in continuity with the rest of the character.
Wow.
And the fact that she had all that together, and we did that in like 5 days, and it wasn't a grueling shoot at all. We would do the scene. We didn't spend longer than an hour on each scene, because I knew what everything was going to be, had the storyboards, I knew the shots, I kind of knew what the subtext was going to be, so we were able to identify how we were going to edit it together. And it was just a magnificent, close collaboration, and I think it's such a great performance. There's so many nuances there. Like, she had such an awareness of what she was doing with her face that I could do match cuts between a flashback and her in the present through the same like facial gesture.
That's a dream for a director to have in an actor, isn't it? That's incredible.
It's just like, it was so astonishing. It was like, okay, right, these things really offer something to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not just me sort of rescuing some creativity into my day. They're becoming something greater the more I work with people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's so great.
And one thing that you've sort of touched on there is the amount of planning that goes in naturally to make something work so well. It's so interesting when the final result has this kind of accessible, rough and ready, very audience friendly vibe that's responsive, but it's incredible that a lot of work goes in to look like something hasn't had a lot of work on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, because we were talking about Aardman earlier, I think there's something in that as well, like the sheer amount of planning that must go into a claymation to make it look really off the cuff is just wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. There's like an in-joke in Flushed Away, which I went to see at the cinema this morning again, and there's a bit where Hugh Jackman's character is falling from the sky, and the sky turns out to be a chalk artwork on a pavement, and the character that's painted it comes over and goes, "That took me 3 years." And then it has this huge pullback to show this huge square with loads of characters and everyone going in, and it's this obvious this thing of like, that's how long that one shot took someone or a team to work on.
That's brilliant. Very self-aware.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that anyone outside of the creative industries, and particularly outside of multimedia or film or TV, it's just impossible to comprehend quite how much work goes into making like a couple of minutes of footage. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of have this balanced personality of being incredibly organised and a real planner, but also being able to come up with fantastic
and go with the flow at the
ideas.
moment.
Yeah. And I feel like
it's a
there's
strange skill set, isn't it?
No one's got the exact balance, do they? And that's why we have producers, and that's why we have directors, and that's why we have a team. Because no one person, I mean, I know obviously you do huge amounts, but I feel like you'll always need, even with just collaborating with actors and having actors bringing ideas forward and stuff, no one can work in a vacuum, can they? It's impossible.
No, definitely not. And the people that have been in Thingies or have worked on Thingies, like behind the camera, I've managed to find really amazing people that are really, really adept and talented and have bought into doing this thing with me. So it's like this amazing thing. It's taught me to take them seriously with regards to what they can offer other people. Like even the first one, Dan Go Away, Ryan Harrison, who did the sound for it, he was already this person that was working in industry, and he just wanted to do something that he thought was exciting, and he'd have loads of creative scope. And the sound work on Don't Go Away is just astonishing. The amount of world building he did that actually sold some of the locations and everything was just astonishing.
It must remind you as well of every single element of filmmaking is equally vital and equally important. And we find this in theatre as well, that sound design a lot of the time goes so underappreciated, because the whole point of it half the time is to not be noticeable, you know, not be consciously noticeable. So yeah,
definitely. One of the challenges with Year of the Thingy was, because I wasn't planning to do a documentary about the audience reactions, it's just we had such a wealth of amazing thoughts that sometimes some of the phone audio like wasn't as good as me or Alfie Appleby edited and mixed it, and some of the audio was not as clear as we would like it, and so there was some extra work that Alfie did to try and make those particular reactions clearer. But the thing that was amazing about it was that not only were these people returning, they would bring like a close friend, and when we did audience reactions on the same thingy, at the start it would be like my favourite bit was, and then towards the end they'd talk about how, like, I remember Harry Main came to see Fifth Quarter on the 1 year anniversary, so the January 2025, and he was saying that it's his 12th time watching it, and watching it now, like the parts of Manchester that we shot in to represent this fictional northern city have changed, and so much building's gone on that he's like, even already he's thinking like how much has happened in his life since he first saw it and where he is now and everything. So the depth of response is accumulating, rather than just going, yes, I'm complimentary about this thingy. It's like, and it's meaning something different to me.
Yeah, and the fact that there has been such a history of thingies at this point, I imagine early ones are like time capsules almost. Like, not just what visually things look like, but where people were in their lives when it was happening, which is brilliant.
Completely. It's one of the really lovely things is my daughter's been in all 6.
Oh, gorgeous.
My son, who was born after Happy Returns, is in Fifth Quarter and Mission Giggle and Year of the Thingy. And so you can literally see my daughter grow from 2 years old to being 14, and my son from being about 2 to being 6.
So it's been incredibly like personal part of your life as well. Like it's like you can look back at these thingies and see, like must make you smile to see kind of that journey.
It's really wonderful. Because one thing I did notice is there's something about when they're in thingies, something of their character or their manner is captured in a way just shooting home footage stuff doesn't, because there's the premise that your dad's filming you, and when you're creating something you're in that kind of state of like, oh, I'm pretending now. There's something else about the mannerism and the character that comes through.
That's wonderful.
It's so fascinating.
I feel like you talk about reaction a lot, and audience reaction on the actual day, but also with you filming reactions and then showing them as part of your thing.
But there's a thing.
There's also something really British and British comedy about the vox pop and use of vox pop in comedy. Monty Python was big on that. It dates back, and I think there's something wonderfully familiar and wholesome and a little bit quirky about just seeing Joe Public talking directly to a camera, because it reminds us that we're all so different, we're all so weird. We might think we're the most normal person in the world and we have the most normal opinions in the world, but that's really untrue. You get all these wonderful things that go viral of people who come out with the wildest stuff when they're interviewed on the news, and I feel like that must feed in so beautifully to just the feel of the whole thing.
It is interesting with the Year of the Thing, because I didn't put any of the audience reactions up on social media. I didn't feel like they worked in the same way. They just seemed like I was trying to clip compliments.
Sure.
And I was talking to Alfie at the end. I was saying, how did you feel like doing the audience reactions? Because he came to all the screenings as well. And he was going like, at the start, hated it. But because you didn't put them on social media, I started going, okay, it's just because he's like tracking these people coming. So that thing of like trust and it not being like sort of like an inquisition. And it's like, it's just this, just trying to capture how people, what their responses are and everything. And the tradition of the vox pop is so strong in British comedy, because like those Fry and Laurie ones are great as well.
Definitely. Oh yes.
Dennis Pennis, like doorstepping celebrities, like completely brilliant. So there is that thing of like, okay, right, you're on camera now. Now what? You know?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
They can be so naturally funny people as well. It's just
Yeah.
like they don't even realise it sometimes. Like the most genuine kind of reactions or deer in headlights kind of moments are so interesting. But they always say that as well, as like, you know, when people are kind of at the cinema watching a film, their reactions is almost like the purest form of acting.
Because they don't think anyone's looking.
They don't know that they're being watched. They don't know anything. So they're genuinely responding to what's in front of them in such an authentic way. That's why I think it's so fascinating when you can capture people's reactions and the comedy and the natural kind of comedy that comes out of people when they're just, those moments are sort of highlighted on camera.
But also it's a case in point that nothing can be fully new and original and in a wonderful way, because comedy especially has such heritage in this country in particular. And it's great that you can create, like,
It brings people together.
It brings people together. It's really human. I think, you know, it must have been the earliest form of performance must have been people trying to make each other laugh before there was even language, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about the fact that thingies are so unique and original, but they still have heritage from something great, which is so cool.
Definitely, yeah. I think heritage-wise, when I started, I wanted to be somewhere between like Alejandro Jodorowsky and Norman Wisdom, or like between like George Kuchar and Victoria Wood, and that was like that was my kind of like central thing. I was trying to get the best of both, the sort of like the open, emotive slapstick in Norman Wisdom, and the kind of like offering observations about just people's day-to-day lives with Victoria Wood, with some kind of sense of tactile experimental art cinema.
Yeah, and I think that really chimes with like the Manchester feel as well. I think there's something about down to earthness that, again,
Definitely.
Victoria Wood being a fantastic case in point, you know, representing that so well. It sounds just like the sort of thing that would fit in here. I'd love to see how it would translate to like other cultures. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. An Italian art film label called Carboluce distributing my second one, Freelance Gigolo.
Very cool.
So they were building up a big plethora, and they kind of got hit by the pandemic, and because they couldn't screen anything, so it's kind of like on hiatus at the moment.
Oh, that's a shame.
Freelance Gigolo screened in Milan twice with Italian subtitles, and like went over really well. Internationally, I think Monty Python is so big that anything that comes under that kind of like British eccentricness, they're going, oh, I know what this is. This is British comedy.
Yeah.
It's this wacky thing. Like, I get it. Yeah, it's great.
But I think the Italian culture has such a history of experimentalism, and of course you've got Commedia dell'arte, but also they've got sort of their own brand almost of comedy, and I feel like there are lots of differences, but I think there's strong crossovers as well.
Oh yeah,
particularly
completely.
character-based comedy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very like auteur-driven film audience as well.
Yes.
Like in their DVD shops, their DVDs and Blu-rays are in order of director, not order of film title.
That's fascinating.
So I was like, this is amazing. So they'd have like a Fellini section, they'd have, you know, Spielberg section. So you'd go and find all these Italian filmmakers like Dario Argento and Lina Wertmuller, and they'd have all their stuff in, and you'd go to their surname, not try and find their films across all the catalogue. And that's such a different culture.
To me, that makes more sense. I don't know why. I think a lot of the time certain directors, certain like showrunners or filmmakers tend to veer towards the same genres or similar genres anyway. Not always though.
No, not necessarily.
But I think that I do tend to, like, I love a bit of Coen Brothers, and it's like I tend to go to their canon before I go to what genre of film do I want to watch.
Like
completely.
if you know their work, you're familiar with the films that you kind of come to love, your go-tos, I guess. Then you might think, right, I'm associating that with this director, and I want to see kind of what else is in that catalogue.
I mean,
Coen's a good example, isn't it? Because it's like, I've had a day, I want that kind of like dark humour outlook.
Yes.
So is it Raising Arizona, or is it Big Lebowski, or is it Barton Fink? I don't know. Like, I haven't watched that one for a while. I haven't watched The Serious Man for 8, so I'm going to watch that actually.
But at the same time, it's kind of a good example, but it's also kind of a bad example, because I feel like Coen Brothers is a genre unto itself.
Yeah,
you
completely.
Know? There are a few that are maybe different, but like, but Spielberg is a good example, I suppose, in that, you know, Jurassic Park, I suppose Jurassic Park is a sci-fi, but it's also an action. But I think Steven Spielberg's been so prolific and has worked in so many different genres, but still, you can recognise a Spielberg film. But yeah, just delving into like my film nerd for a moment.
Yes,
No, this is not what this podcast is about, everyone. Stop it.
I think what's interesting though is that people in the theatre world as well, whether you're an actor on stage or a writer for stage, we all have a fascination with acting in films. We have a fascination
Absolutely.
with directors. We all grow up watching our favourite films and from these famous directors, and I think we can all have an appreciation. And that's why I was saying you'll find a lot of actors that will do both disciplines, the theatre and the film world, and they're both very different, but they both have their own like kind of unique positives and negatives in different ways. But we're talking a lot about like the comedy. So you said that you were inspired by Victoria Wood and various other really renowned comedy legends, but you also were in stand-up comedy as well. I know you studied film, but did you kind of always think you wanted to incorporate like stand-up comedy and be like live on stage as well?
Yeah, so I think after I finished my filmmaking MA, I realised I wanted to like investigate and see whether I could do like comedy, whether I enjoyed doing it, not whether it went well or not, just whether I enjoyed doing it. And from the first time I did stand up, I felt like surprisingly comfortable with the whole premise and being on stage and getting material together, but wanting to see what that material went like rather than just simply doing a rehearsal in front of an audience. So Don't Go Away, Freelance Gigolo and Mission Giggle have that comedy character in, like trying to make the world a happy place one laugh at a time. And then Happy Returns and Fifth Quarter are not about that comedy character, they're about different characters and different people. So the thing of like using myself as a comedy character sort of led to other things in other people and having other characters being the focus of the narrative.
Yeah,
sure.
But that was definitely like an entry into understanding how I could work as a filmmaker, because like I say, it's like the development of the material is close to how a stand-up would work, where they would test stuff and tweak and refine and drop and write more. But then it's probably like quite close to being like a musician as well, where you've got your kit and you're going to different places and you're doing the particular performance and then working with other people as well. So
and you're learning a lot, I guess, from the audience, as we talked a lot about getting the audience reaction and the audience involved. And, what better way to do that than kind of getting up on stage as a stand-up comic and really interacting with them and getting to learn and try that material before you actually go out and record it. It's a really great way of doing it. Like whether you're looking to do stand-up comedy as like a form in itself or whether it is kind of to support your work as a filmmaker. I think it's a great thing to embrace kind of different disciplines as an artist, and it sounds like you do exactly that. Are you working on another thingy at the moment?
We've just shown Year of the Thingy. Year before that, I did a first episode of a live show that was like a magazine format with this fantastic guy, Taryn Field, who like shot everything. So that's on my website as well, presenting.com. Plug. And then year before that, it was finishing Mission Giggle and screening that, premiering that at the Scalarama Leeds Festival. And then the year before that was finishing Fifth Quarter. So at the moment, I'm not thinking too much in August about what I'm doing.
No, that's great. I think that's
absolutely fair.
That's valid. It's been a heck of a busy few years for you.
Yeah.
I respect that, I think. And again, we bash this over the head over and over again, but having downtime is vital. You can't just
need to refresh and replenish.
Where are your ideas going to come from if your head is constantly filled with producing and doing this and doing that? You need to, like you say, replenish your energy, replenish your inspiration.
I mean, they do have the Scalarama double bill this year in September is Happy Turns and Fifth Quarter. So that's a double bill I thought would go really well because Happy Turns is about like being trapped inside and Fifth Quarter is pretty much about having to be outside all day. So it's kind of like inside-outside double bill. And they both don't star my comedy character, which is really nice. And that's screening at the UK's smallest cinema in Leeds, which is called the Palace Picture House, which is a recreation of a 1912 cinema that was in Leeds at the time. So that's really nice. So that's playing as part of Scalarama Leeds. 2026. The Eagle-in ones are continuing, so we'll keep that run going. And having said that, I'll probably decide on like the car journey home, like what my next thing is. Start making it by the end of the week.
I know how it is. It just jumps into your head sometimes, doesn't it? When it's ready, it'll arrive.
Once you've had 5 minutes downtime. That's what I wanted to do.
That's so great though. And you obviously have such a discipline that you're able to consistently keep kind of bringing new thingies like to the world and like, keeping this community going. doing. So very excited to see what you do next. I mean, it just sounds like a lot of fun, and I think that's a key part of any sort of project that you do. You want to enjoy it, and you bring people together to enjoy something and to just have a laugh together as well, isn't it? And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a good point to go back through our What's On in Manchester, if you're ready, Amelia.
Yeah, so What's On in Manchester? So we're going to give a shout out to The Red Lion, which is directed by David Thacker and will be coming to the King's Arms on the 23rd of September. So The Red Lion is a powerful, humorous drama by the Oscar-nominated writer Patrick Marber. It pits a passionate veteran kitman against an ambitious, win-at-all-costs manager in a fierce battle for the soul of a gifted teenage prodigy. David Thacker is an Olivier Award-winning theatre and television director known for his highly acclaimed work with the Royal Shakespeare Company, the Young Vic and the Octagon Theatre in Bolton. So definitely one to look out for. That will be The Red Lion on at the King's Arms on the 23rd of September.
We also have Terminal 2, written and directed by David Payne. It's coming to 53.2 on the 30th of September to the 1st of October. And it's set in an airport departure lounge when a plane has been delayed. You have George and Linda Sumner debating the meaning of life, the common blue bottle sex tapes, and the pros and cons of a KFC. However, it seems like there's a slightly darker and more intense theme to this play and storyline that unfolds throughout. Will George find the strength to support his wife to the end of her journey? Can Linda help him to begin his own? Or will a series of emotional revelations divert both their plans? I think that sounds like a really interesting and unusual piece that I'm looking forward to seeing. But that is our What's On in Manchester. At this point, what we tend to do is we tend to ask our guest. We've already had so many great insights from you.
Yes, thank you so much, Daniel. It's been so great having you.
But also, we do tend to ask if there is like an insight or a piece of advice that you live by or you'd like to live by that you'd like to share with our listeners, anyone who might be interested in entering the creative industries, creating entirely their own discipline of art, or anything else besides. Is there anything in particular you'd like to pass on to people?
A phrase I keep returning to, which I think has stood me in good stead over the years, is keep things smaller than a farce.
Okay.
So if something feels like when something's going to happen seems like it's getting abstract, or if the amount of people getting involved means something's getting a bit murky and indistinct as to what it's going to turn out like, really think about how much of that is necessary for the idea, the thing, your intuition on it actually needs to move forward with. So I always think, is this smaller than a farce? No, it's not. It's becoming a bit of a farce. So I think we need to just redefine what we're actually doing.
That's fantastic.
Great advice.
As a writer, that feels really pertinent. It really I feel like boiling something down to its very base level and saying, this is what we're trying to present. All the rest of it is fluff.
Yeah.
It's always good to keep coming back to that core of why.
Yeah.
You know.
Because it's so difficult to mount anything, no matter what medium you're in.
Yeah.
I think keeping it small on the farce gives the intuition as to why you actually want to do that to begin with.
For real.
To actually carry through. Because there's less things to sort of knock the corners off.
I think that even applies if you're writing a farce.
Yeah.
In fact, especially because I think that there is this tendency to be like, how silly and out there and multi-layered can I make this? I have a really strong urge to write a farce. I would love to.
Yeah.
But I think it takes such discipline. And people think the discipline lies in sort of tying all the threads together and making sure everything flows. And that's very much the case. But it's also the case of all the things that happen, they have to happen.
Yeah.
You don't want anything in there that doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
So that is such a challenge to achieve. That's such a pertinent piece of advice, and I think
it's
that's
like,
unique.
what do you want to happen versus like, does this have to happen? Then?
Yeah, are you just doing this to make it a farce? You know, which is not the aim really of writing a farce in a way, I suppose. I don't know. I'm tying myself in knots here. I'm my own farce.
I am a farce.
I am a farce. My life is a farce. I think that's one of the most unique pieces of advice that we've had so far.
Yeah, I love that. When we make some merch, we'll get that slogan on a tee.
Yeah.
Great, Daniel Hutchings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really, really cool. But I think, we're getting to the point now where it's about time to wrap up anyway, which is a real shame. I feel like this has been a strangely philosophical
It's been
episode.
Really great fun. It's been so good, to explore. We've got to talk a lot about films and experimental art.
And the crossover with theatre, which is heavy, it's a really huge crossover. And I feel like I'm a convert to the Thingies fan club. I need to get along and watch some of the events.
Absolutely.
Never seen
consider
Thingies
us
before.
part of the fan fan club now. We'll be there with the merch, like the next.
I mean, people might think otherwise about me, but I've never seen a thingy before. So, you know, who'd have thought?
Well, you can watch the first 3 at presentsync.com. You can sign up for the Thingy fan club for free as well. So you'd be on the mailing list for all the events that are coming up.
I'm jumping right on that one.
And I bought you copies of
Oh my
3 of the
goodness.
Thingy books.
Oh, these are
For
gorgeous.
you to enjoy. That's Dan Go Away, Between Laughter and Failure, Thingy Festo, and the production diary for Happy Returns, which is called From Start to Thingy.
These
Oh
are
my gosh,
beautifully
that is
produced.
amazing.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much.
you.
You're
We'll
welcome.
have to,
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that's my reading done for the
Oh,
next.
for real. Do you know what? I have been kicking myself. I've been reading nothing recently.
Yes.
This is my gateway back into reading.
I know my plan of reading 1 classical novel a month has gone very, very unsuccessfully.
That's ambitious, mate.
That was way too ambitious. I don't know why. You know, like the start of the year, you just say, yeah, these are my resolutions. I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then you just do none of them.
You know what?
That's not great, is it?
Hugo, Dickens, Chaucer.
I know, exactly. I know. I still need to finish Wuthering Heights.
Man.
But-
No, thank you so much. We'll get pictures of these on our Instagram and we will link in our description to your website, to where you can find these, where you can sign up to be a fan of the thingy.
Yes. We'll get some pickies to drop on the socials.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're getting derailed. We've got presents, guys. If you would like to be a guest on MITPod, then all you need to do is email mitpoddy@gmail.com. That's mitpoddy@gmail.com. You can also drop us a DM on Instagram. That is at MIT_pod. You do not have to come on in person. You can send us a voice note. You can send us an email. If you've got a show on or an event on or anything like that,
An
let us know.
opportunity to call out, just let us know. We can give a shout out for you.
Absolutely. We can't always promise that we'll get you in time for an episode because it depends on our recording schedule. But if we can give you a shout out in the podcast, or we can share things on socials, anything like that. But also like and subscribe on either of our platforms, YouTube or Spotify. And just keep listening, keep letting us know what you want from us. And we'll just keep making this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going away,
Keep
guys.
on
I'm so
keeping
sorry.
on.
We'll keep on keeping on. But from both of us at MITPod, thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on. You've been a fantastic guest.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And long live the thingy.
Yes, long live the thingy.
May it continue forever and ever, amen. And thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
See you again next time for another episode.
Bye.
Bye.